The NFL draft was fantastic. And yes, Bo Nix is exciting, but we're here today, Mace, to talk about the running backs for the Denver Broncos because the selection of Audric Estime, this is a selection for now and the future for the Broncos.
Or as John Elway used to say, for now and from now on. By the way, May 2nd, the 41st anniversary of the John Elway trade to Denver from the Baltimore Colts after the draft. Mm-hmm. So it's what you ideally want to do, get it right for now and from now on. But there's no denying that Audric Estime changes the entire complexion of the running back room. And oh, by the way, when you get into the undrafted players, Blake Watson also changes the potential dynamic of the running back room.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating conversation today. And I could see a future, Mace, where it's Estime as the 1 and it's Blake Watson as the 2.
Ooh. Spicy.
I mean, like, that's the future of this team, right? Like, I mean, it could be. Jaleel McLaughlin's got some work cut out for him. So we got a ton of places to start. Would you like to begin with the Notre Dame back and maybe even Sean Payton's comments on his vision for Estimé?
Let's start there, because when he's asked about his first vision, the way Sean Payton describes it sounds suspiciously like an RB1 in the room.
Mm-hmm. The first vision would be first and second down runner. I'm always hesitant to just say someone's third down. We'll kind of see how that unfolds, but he's strong. I think he has real good vision, contact balance. He was one of the higher graded backs after contact. He's a physical player, and we always try to look at comps, and I don't want to do that with him. But man, he is a first and second down runner who I think is strong and has pretty good feet for his size, and played with a real good front, a pro type offense. So he'll have experience relative to the schemes, both under center and in the shotgun. And again, it's always difficult. A lot of times we'll have close friends and family ask, like, why'd you take a runner you already have? And it's like, this is an entirely different process that's really factored in with value, going into it a lot.
I wonder who those friends are.
Right,
yes.
Right. And then at the end, he says that factors into value. That sounds like a starter.
Well, not only that, he speaks obviously of first and second down, not third down. So you're talking about an every down runner. He also, when he was rattling off the attributes of Audric Estime, he talked about his vision. And even when it was going well for Jaleel McLaughlin back in his rookie season 2021 before the knee injury, vision is one critique that was valid. And it was one of the reasons why he wasn't the clear-cut RB1 that year, where it was very much a 50-50 timeshare basically with him and Melvin Gordon, was for all of the angry runs and breaking tackles. There are some times where the vision isn't quite what you'd hope. And, sometimes he's not going to hit the hole perfectly in a way that you'd want. And then last year, when he's lost some of that burst post-injury, the vision issues, I think they came to the fore more because he didn't have that. He didn't have that breakthrough ability. And so when the vision is failing you, you're failing to hit the holes as efficiently as you should, especially when you have a run block unit that, according to ESPN Analytics, was third in the league in run block win rate.
Yep. Should have been better. And what am I thinking? Should have known better.
Richard Marx.
In love with you, Javonte, because here's how crazy I am, Mace. I will argue with Terrell Davis about the importance of vision versus footwork. TD takes vision, I take footwork. You should take vision, by the way. But when Javonte, he'll see it, he has the feet to get there, but he's so intent on running into contact, right? So, and when you lose that burst from the knee, now all of a sudden you're late seeing it, you can't get there, and you don't have any power, thus sub 4 yards per carry.
Yeah, 3.6 yards per carry when Samaje Perine averaged 4.5 yards a carry, and Jaleel McLaughlin averaged 5.4 yards a carry. See, that's the other thing. You had a situation where objectively Javonte Williams was not as productive as the other two running backs on a per touch basis.
Right.
And that's why you and I were talking about going into the draft that running back was kind of this low key need, even though we got similar questions to the ones that Sean Payton said he got when he was referring to friends and family asking, why are you picking a runner? I would like to know, like, who asked him these questions. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they get it a lot, right? But well, you got Javonte, you got Jaleel, you got Samaje. We have for now. I think that's the best way to look at running backs, Mace, is it's always for now.
Yeah, that is actually perfect. Running back is very much an in the now thing. Even though you're trying to go now and from now on can close pretty quickly. In 2021, you thought you were covered from now on when Javonte Williams had that explosive season, and then the unthinkable happens. And then the unthinkable happens at the time when Melvin Gordon is having fumbling issues left and right, and they're about ready to move on from him. And then Javonte unfortunately tears those ligaments, and Gordon got forced back out there, right? I mean, remember the second quarter of that Vegas game 2 years ago? Gordon fumbles, it's a scoop and score the other way for the Raiders, and we're all like, oh, that's the last we'll see of Melvin Gordon, right? And then in a football sense, tragedy ensued for Javonte Williams with an injury that unfortunately he's not been the same since.
Right. So we can all hope that he gets back there, or if you're the Broncos, you can prepare in case he doesn't. And that's where Estimé comes in, who is your Samaje replacement or Javonte future replacement, whatever. It's another big-bodied power back who does create his own space with vision and power. And if we go back to Javonte, I think, and runners always create their own space with speed or quickness or vision or power. If you look at Estimé, he does it with power and vision, not necessarily speed, although he is bursty. And it's those first 10 yards that matter the most.
Yeah, the bursty, that's a nice word. That's what matters the most. I mean, he's in the NFL, he's probably not going to have an 80-yard touchdown run unless it's a complete bust. There's something that gets messed up, and they've stacked the box, and he just gets past everybody. Odds are those types of runs, he's going to get flagged down at the end of it by a cornerback who simply got more speed. But hey, if he's getting tackled after a 45 or 50-yard burst, I mean, that's exactly what you want. The other thing is the vision comes into play in the red zone, where you've got the compressed area of the field, more defenders, less space. It's harder to find those crevices. The Broncos haven't been a good red zone running team the last year and a half or so. That's something that you're hoping Audric Estime can change. I mean, Jaleel McLaughlin has some good vision, but at the same time, he's also a smaller back. And unless he comes along in pass pro, we'll get to more on that later on in the show. Unless he comes along in that area, it's going to limit how often you can use him, because as we talked about on the show last season, it was a tell when he was out there.
Yeah. So much so I had to ask Joe Lombardi about it. Like, hey, is it a tell? Because it's totally a tell. Like, yeah, it was. So if he's not great in pass pro, well, teams are going to know, hey, here comes Jaleel. He's getting the ball. We do have that clip from Jaleel, and this wasn't the final day, Mace. This was like it was a Wednesday, right? When did we talk to Jaleel before the season was over?
I think actually, I was looking back. I think it was actually the Thursday before the end of the season back in January. And so at that point, when the team is eliminated from the playoffs, that last week, you're starting to kind of do the debriefing, right, at the end of the year. Even though you got one more game, it's going to end. So it's an appropriate time to kind of think, okay, what did you do this year? What are you hoping to do in the offseason? And he made it clear he knew what he had to do in this offseason. Of course, offseason work started with workouts a few weeks ago. But when they get on the practice field in a few weeks here in May, he knows he's got to be focused on pass pro.
Very important. That's going to be a focus on in off season for me. And because I want my teammates to be able to count on me, and also be able to protect the quarterback. So I'm definitely going to work on that in off season.
Technique wise, specifically, what do you want to improve in that?
I would say my punch. That's what I'm working to improve.
Okay, the punch. And is it Joe Lombardi's responsibility to get him there? We talk about all the quarterback and Pete Carmichael and Davis Webb. Like, you got a lot of resources for the quarterback. Is it Lombardi's job for everything, of course, but can he focus on these running backs a little more?
I think you can, and you've got a running backs coach. Don't get me wrong, and he was, he played a key role in drafting Audric Estime and kind of doing the scouting and all that. But ultimately, it's going to come down to Joe Lombardi kind of guiding the run game, guiding the protection from an overarching perspective, especially with Pete Carmichael coming in as an offensive assistant as well. It'll allow Lombardi to kind of focus more on that. The thing is, if you're Jaleel McLaughlin, you're 5'7", 187 pounds. So at that size compared to, say, a 205, 210-pound running back, there's only so much you can do. So let's actually hear from Joe Lombardi first, kind of talking about, Jaleel, as a pass protector, and then focusing on what a small running back can do to get there in pass pro. So here's the first soundbite from Joe Lombardi from back in January.
Yeah, I think, us and him getting more comfortable in pass protection. Sometimes, if a guy isn't, and he's plenty smart enough, it's just he's not as big as some of the other guys. And so being able to, get those reps and us seeing that, he's going to be able to block these 250-pound linebackers if he's matched up on them would be the big thing.
Comfort is what he said. Yeah.
How comfortable can you be when you're taking on somebody who's got a 63-pound advantage, referring to that 250-pound inside linebacker that sometimes you're going to have to take on? So, it's a little bit of mind over matter, no doubt. Old cliche, if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. But there are techniques that a smaller running back can utilize to get right. We had Jaleel was just talking about his punch, in the comment we played few minutes ago. But here's Joe Lombardi getting in what smaller running backs can do in order to flourish in pass protection.
Closing space so the guy doesn't get a lot, don't wait on him, because the longer you wait, the faster he's going to hit you. So closing space, leverage, strike points, all those things.
Closing space. I like that. Basically, that. Now, the thing is, that means you've sort of got to anticipate where the rush is coming in. So that is where it goes to the mental side of it, being able to diagnose where you think that rush is coming from. Is this a moment where you think the rush is coming from the A gap, and then positioning yourself? And that's where maybe you get a couple of steps closer. And then it's a physics equation, right? Like Joe Lombardi was saying, the more space that the linebacker has, the more speed they're going to have. And then,
where's your leverage at? Where's your striking points? That's punch, basically.
Force is mass times velocity, right? And the more velocity they get, the more force they're going to have. That mass of the player is static, but the velocity is going to increase as they get up to speed. And so that's why if you're Jaleel McLaughlin or any small running back like Blake Watson coming in here as an undrafted rookie, that has to be the focus. It is actually one thing that may give Jaleel an advantage over Blake Watson, because this is going into the second year of this scheme. He's done a lot of the skull sessions with Sean Payton. We know about how he shows up at the building at 5 a.m. The two of them often meet, go over concepts and things like that. So that, I think, is going to help him identify things pre-snap and then get ready and be able to anticipate the rush and be closer to the line of scrimmage to take care of that blitzing linebacker, or at least beat obstruction. Because now, if you've moved on to Bo Nix at quarterback, ideally it's 1-2 and out.
And you got to protect the franchise if you're back there, Mace.
And oh, by the way, if you're getting the ball out quickly, What are teams going to try to do to disrupt that? They've got to get the rush from inside rather than on the edge, where it takes more time. Even if you've got a lot of speed on the edges, just the distance to cover means you're taking more time. So against a passing game that is working the way you want it to work, where it's a lot of quick rhythm and timing stuff, you're going to see teams test the A-gaps more, and that puts even more of an onus on the running back to step up in pass pro.
Snap to sack from the edge is 2.6 seconds. Time before pass for Bo Nix was 2.4 seconds. Simply put, as Jonah Ellis told us, he gets rid of it right before you get to him. So that's going to put more onus on those running backs. Now, I say Blake Watson is compact. Obviously, you and I both like Blake Watson. I think Jaleel McLaughlin is a small back. I think Blake Watson is a compact back. 5'9", 200 pounds. I'd have to look at his frame, see if he can add another 5'10" of muscle. That would make a big difference, by the way, because if he's 25 pounds heavier than Jaleel McLaughlin, who's, let's just say 185, would you say his measurements were 187? Right?
He is listed officially at 187.
Okay. So let's say he's 187. Let's say he's 190. He puts some weight on. Well, Watson's already got 10 pounds on him right now. So that added muscle, as you mentioned, with the equation, it makes a difference.
But he didn't measure in at 200 pounds earlier this offseason.
What did he measure in as?
189.
Okay.
At the Shrine.
At the pro day, he measured at 200. I'm looking at Dane Brugler's report.
Okay.
So 189 to 200. Now, if he's 189, that is a smaller back.
Yes.
If he's 200, I would say compact because he's 5'9".
But here's the thing. We know one thing that can be problematic for players is keeping the weight on when they are getting into that everyday routine of practice. If a player had to go, like if he had to go through some lengths to add weight, like Blake Watson did between the Shrine and Pro Day, odds are he's going to end up playing closer to that original weight.
Right.
Which is why I think 189 is probably the number that may stick. Like that's from the Shrine. If you go on his NFL.com bio, that's what they've got him listed as, is 189. And yeah, this matters. Like 10 pounds does matter in the calculus for Blake Watson because it changes whether he's a small back or, like you say, a compact back. 200 pounds on a 5'9" running back. I mean, that's a pretty good build. But here's the thing: at 200 pounds, is he losing his speed? And part of the calculus for success for Blake Watson involves explosiveness and speed. And you may want him right there about 189, 190 pounds, which means he's got to figure out those techniques, kind of like the ones that Joe Lombardi discussed, in order to be solid at pass protection and this level and function well in the Broncos offense.
We're doing a lot of math on this show, talking about running backs. It is a game of angles. There's geometry involved for sure. Blake Watson is a guy that can be the next great undrafted back. I'm not going to predict that. We got to see him first. Let's see what he looks like on a pro field. But so impressive. You and I talked to him at the Shrine Bowl. Do you want to start with the low maintenance? Or you want to start with him talking about pass pro? Because you guys just take a look at this kid. He's a very impressive young man.
Let's start with the pass pro, since we're kind of focused on that right now.
Okay.
The low maintenance part, this is interesting in terms of character. We've had discussions, of course, on this show about how the Broncos were emphasizing character, something George Payton talked about after the draft. But Blake Watson already knows pass pro, it's the thing he's got to show, because he feels like the rest of it is on film, but he's got to show that he can handle pass pro. He knows that's his path to playing time.
Yeah, because I feel like I've shown everything else. I mean, just with my size, I want to get that across that I can do pass pro.
That was at the Shrine game, the Shrine Bowl practices, where he was talking about, kind of what does he want to show teams? And that's a big thing. You watch the film, he's explosive. He's a good pass catcher. He had 53 receptions last year at Memphis.
Only two backs in FBS last year had 50-plus catches, Bucky Irvin and Blake Watson.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Two backs. Dude's a player.
It's funny, we're talking about him
in the Bucky Irvin role.
Yeah.
Ooh, got chills.
I'll actually give you a thing for the Broncos. we've talked about Samaje Perine being on the bubble. Is he your Samaje Perine? Perine last year did as much as a pass catcher as he did as a runner.
Yes.
So if you're figuring out the construction of this room, I know we're talking about Estimé making Perine potentially a casualty just in the calculus, but in terms of the specific role, does Blake Watson end up getting a lot of the snaps that Perine got if he can show he's effective in pass pro? And if he can do that when you get down in those close and late situations where it's as much about dump offs as handoffs, does Blake Watson become a guy who ends up playing maybe some high leverage reps if he makes this team?
Yeah, and I can imagine once Blake figures out Jaleel gets there at 5 a.m., he might get there at 4:55 a.m. Like, I see the competition. Watson's not afraid of it at all whatsoever, and a player that definitely, as we lose Mace there for a second, as a player that 1,000% is ready to go from day one, Mace. And I love his attitude. I love his demeanor, and he knows now, especially as an undrafted guy. By the way, his undrafted contract, Mace, like he's getting more money than 7th-round picks, and he gets to hit free agency sooner. So there's an incentive for these guys to, when you're undrafted, you get to pick where you want to go, essentially. They had him in for a top 30 visit. We were excited about it. We told you about it on the show. But you look at the money that he's been given. You look at the money compared to other 7th-round picks. Like, Blake Watson knows, and he knows what he has to do.
Yeah, Blake Watson has the highest guaranteed money coming in among undrafted rookies, along with Frank Crum, the offensive tackle for Wyoming. This is a big sign of where these players factor in the Broncos' plans. Blake Watson, $25,000 signing bonus, but he got $250,000 guaranteed. So if he's on the practice squad, he's getting more than the minimum. He's going to get at least $250,000. You know, and even if he's not on the practice squad, he gets $250,000, right?
Right.
So they incentivize things for him to come to Denver. You may have had to do that because the room does look a little crowded when you used a 5th-round pick on Audric Estime. But at the same time, I think this also shows what they're thinking. Part of the equation for Blake Watson as well could be on special teams. Kickoffs are completely different, and they're going to favor shiftiness and quick cuts and vision more than straight line speed.
Very much
because kickoffs are now going to be more like punt returns, and you have to have 2 returners back deep. Blake Watson, I'd also say Jaleel McLaughlin as well, they're both candidates to be next to Marvin Mims Jr. back there. And if that's the case, Cease, this is where the Broncos could carry 4 backs plus fullback Mike Burton on the 53. I don't think they'll carry 5 on the 53, but I think 4 is possible. And then who's the odd person out? I think we've all sort of said probably Samaje Perine.
Right.
But I would say if I'm Javonte Williams, don't risk it with a bad camp. Okay? Because Sean Payton will cut you. Now, that being said, we always say focus on what they do, not what they say. What they did early last week when they unveiled the uniforms, first the primary set, then the throwbacks. They used Javonte Williams on the primary set of uniforms, and they used Jaleel McLaughlin on the throwbacks. That's what they do. That probably tells you both are in good shape on the roster. And with adding running backs to the room, the guy who's maybe in a bit of a spot of bother is Samaje Perine.
What I love about all the backs on the roster is they're smart.
Yeah.
And they've got character. And to quote Reservoir Dogs, just because you are a character doesn't mean you have character. These backs all have character. So let's play the low maintenance.
Wait, was that? I thought that was Pulp Fiction. I thought that was the wolf.
Pulp, or was it Reservoir? I know it was.
I think it was the wolf who said that about character toward the end of Pulp Fiction.
I don't. There's not many Reservoir Dogs quotes we can use. Blakey Blanker looks like the thing. Blake Watson looks like a pro's pro, man. Let's hear this low maintenance thing. You guys are gonna love this kid. Check this out.
Yeah, that I'm a low maintenance guy. I mean, you're not gonna have to worry about me. And yeah, I'm all about the team.
How does that come across? How do you convey that you're a low maintenance guy that they won't have to worry about?
Yeah, just 6 years in college, never got in trouble. I missed one workout my freshman year, put PM instead of AM. But yeah, I mean, I'm a low maintenance guy. Yeah, you don't have to worry about me. You can just keep hammering that home to them.
So when you miss the workout, do they make you run the steps or something like that?
Yeah, I had a little punishment.
Yeah, think about that. The most trouble he got in was he put the wrong time in on the alarm clock.
Yeah. The son of correctional officers that met when they worked at Rikers Island. So yeah, Blake Watson's got plenty of discipline to his game. The work ethic's going to be there. The skill is there. The speed is 4.4 guy, and if he can stay around 200, remember Clinton Portis got down about 185 as a rookie.
Yes.
So and CP's
it happens.
It does. As you go on in the year, you're going to lose some weight. So if he can get 190, 195. That'll help.
Yeah, when he was at Old Dominion before he transferred to Memphis, he was listed at 193. So we got 193 for that measurement. We got 189 for the Shrine Bowl measurement, and we have 200 for the Pro Day. So I'd say probably you're splitting the difference. I'd be surprised if he plays at 200, and frankly, I do wonder if he's as explosive at 200 pounds. It's something maybe that we're going to follow up on when we see him here for rookie minicamp to kind of see where he is because, again, like I said, if you put on that weight in a hurry, usually it also comes off in a hurry once you start working hard in training camp. I mean, that's just it's hard for some players to keep good weight on as they get going.
Right. And you will not be surprised to know, Mace, get this. Memphis got a converted high school receiver as a running back. Mm-hmm. Now he's a running back at Old Dominion, but still like he's a
pass catcher.
It's Antonio Gibson.
Yes. You got your Antonio Gibson after all these years. You've been hoping and hoping and hoping since the 2020 Senior Bowl, which was one of the last normal things before COVID.
Yeah.
And you were hoping for that. And yeah, here you finally get your Memphis back, at least Memphis after a stopover at Old Dominion. By the way, give me the Old Dominion nickname is?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Monarchs.
A monarch on the football field.
Do you know what Old Dominion University used to be called?
No.
The Norfolk Division of the College of William and Mary.
Okay, there you go. It's a little wordy, right?
I think ODU
on a helmet.
Norfolk Division College of William and Mary. Yeah, that's a lot. You can't fit that one on a marquee.
No, imagine the scoreboard. It'd just be like home.
NDCWM. Like what? That it's too bad. I mean, it would have been like IUPUI for a while. Like
not everyone can be FAU or UCF or whatever.
I mean, even like FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast, that's pushing it. Partially because FGCU doesn't roll off the tongue. Like UCLA rolls off the tongue.
Yes.
UNLV sounds good. Yes. FGCU, it's kind of it doesn't mesh. It's kind of harsh. It feels like you're going in all sorts of directions linguistically there. So it's tough on the tongue. It's what Orson Welles would say. It's something that it reads fine. It reads well, but then it's unpleasant to say. Like that's you ever hear the Orson Welles reading of frozen food products? Okay. Yeah, like he basically he complains about the engineer, he complains about the script, like everything is just right. Like at one point he's like, the right reading is the one I'm giving you. And the producer's like, at the moment. Now what do you want? In the depths of your ignorance, what do you want? But yeah, if you look up Orson Welles frozen peas on YouTube, because it begins, we know a remote farm in Lincolnshire where Mrs. Buckley lives. I can't do the Orson Welles voice. I apologize. Every July, peas grow there. Do you really mean that?
Okay, I'll go down the YouTube wormhole. But
it's worth the wormhole if you've never taken in the majesty of Orson Welles. Just go down a rabbit hole of Orson Welles doing like wine commercials. Like there's one where he's drunk completely.
Okay.
When he does, because for a long time he did commercials for Paul Masson wine. Totally date, by the way. If you're not at least like 45 years old, you have no clue about this. Okay.
None.
But yeah, like
Bartles and James.
Yes. We're so old, man. God. I'm so old, I'm spitting. Jeez.
That's an all-time classic. Classic moment. Orange and blue.
So embarrassed. Oh, yeah.
All right.
See, we don't futz around until the end of the show, right?
Right. And if you've stuck around for this, you're going to learn that we have an OBT2 today, Mace.
Yes.
Mike Tanier.
Our friend Mike Tanier joining us. Chopping up the Broncos draft and Bo Nix.
Oh,
yeah.
You're going to get your fix on Bo Nix.
And some good numbers as well, because credit to Mike Tanier for doing some deep dives into the numbers. Some of the numbers that the Broncos took to heart in their decision to draft Bo Nix.
Yes, sir. That's OBT2.
It'll be interesting, by the way, as Bo Nix plays. Does he become a guy who becomes an analytics darling in the pros, but maybe leaves the pure film people that, it's all about the eye test. Well, I think it's about the eye test and the numbers, because the eyes can lie.
Mm-hmm.
Data is objective. I wonder if Bo Nix as a pro is going to become a stress test of the eyes versus analytics. Because I think he may end up being a guy that the analytics love.
For sure.
Pros. Yeah.
As Gary Kubiak said, we are fixing to find out. Mace, before we're out of here, an OBT2 coming up at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Everyone stay tuned. It's YouTube exclusive. How do they help us out on YouTube?
You can like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss a vid.
See, I was like Jordan shooting free throws for Kembe. Hey, kid, watch this. Swish. All right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT is a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.